Hello, my name is Daryl Baker and welcome to the BSP Software podcast channel. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to schedule a backup using the command line function within MetaManager. We're going to start today by using the Backup Restore Deploy module to create a backup and then go ahead and run this through the command line in MetaManager. We're going to select a connection. Then we're going to go ahead and navigate through the portal tree and find a package or folder that we want to back up. We'll go ahead and back up a Go Sales folder and select an output file specified. We will put it in the command line demo folder and call it backup result. Save this. And then we'll go ahead and create a .mmx file by simply clicking the Save button up here. And we'll call this CL for command line. And if we open the folder, we can see that we have saved a .mmx file. If we right click this MMX file, we have a few different options. We have Run and we have Run Produce Dataset. By selecting the Run option, we're going to go ahead and run this .mmx file and create an XML file. As you can see, we created the .xml file and we also created a .mmz file, which is actually the backup. So when we right click on the MMX file and select Run, we're going to run this backup. If we select the Run Produce Dataset, we're actually going to create the .xml file again. We're also going to rerun the backup, so create another .mmz file, and then we're going to create a .xml dataset file. As you can see here, we have created the dataset.xml file. We have also overwritten the XML file and the backup.mmz file as well. The XML file is a native XML result from MetaManager. Within the .xml file is a log of when and where and the location of the backup. So you can see the date, time, the gateway that you're in, the location of the gateway, and various other information, including error messaging. So if this was to error out, this backup file was to error out, you would see that within this .xml file. The dataset XML file is created if you would want to use Cognos to write a report on your backup. This dataset file is readable by Cognos and can be used as a data source. Let's go ahead and show you how to create a command line to run this process. I'm going to go ahead and open Notepad and we're going to type some commands. We need the install location of MetaManager. We're going to type that in. Then we're going to enter the following syntax as stated in Chapter 14 of the user guide. We're going to type in the control panel .exe file, and then we can type in the switches that we want. In this case we're going to use run, so we're going to type in -run, and then -f is equal to, -f is going to be equal to the file that we specify that we want to run. So we're going to say c:/command line demo /cl dot the mmx file. The -run specifies that we're going to run this file that we've typed in here after the .f equals. We're going to go ahead and save this. We'll save it as a bat file. We'll say cl backup.bat. If we go back to our folder, we can see here's the batch file, and if you double click this, it will tell command line to run this .mmx file. We're going to look at a few more switches before we move on. We're going to go ahead and delete these files, and I'm going to show you a couple more switches. So let's delete these. And if we go back to our batch file, I'm going to add a couple more switches, -O and -D. We'll save this. And the -O is going to create an output, which will be the .xml output, and the -D is going to create the dataset XML output. So if we go back here and double click the batch file, we're going to see that this will run, and here we can see that the -O and the -D are present along with all the other command switches that we have entered. And if we go back to the folder, we can see that it's created the .xml file as the -O switch allows. It also created the backup file, the .mmz file, and the dataset file. Let's go back into MetaManager, and we're going to go to a different environment. We're going to go to an environment with some security on it and show you the namespace, username, and password switches. So if we log on to Series 7, type in a user ID and password, we're going to go ahead and navigate the portal tree. We're going to select a package to backup. We're going to change this so we don't overwrite this. We're going to change this to backup result 2. And we're going to save this as CL2. Now if we go into our folder, we see that we have the CL2. We can go ahead and use the backup batch file that we already created. Let's edit this so that we have CL2. We'll save this as a CL backup 2, and then we'll go ahead and run this batch file. So this is going to create our output and our dataset output and our backup.mmz file. And we see that we have an XML dataset and an XML, but we don't have an MMZ backup result. So we'll go ahead and check the .xml and see what happened. And we can see that nothing is run. And if we look here at the exception, authentication failed. And that is because we didn't specify in our batch file the username, namespace, and password. We can do that by simply editing this. And at the end we can just -n is for namespace. We'll set equal to series 7 -username and password. And then we'll go ahead and save this back into our folder and run this batch file again. And as you can see, we have our namespace, username, and password in the command line prompt. Now we can see that it's finished running. We have a XML file and a dataset XML that has just been overwritten, and we have now created the backup.mmz file. And here's a little trick I'm going to show you, because every time that you run this batch file, you're actually going to overwrite the XML and the backup mmz file. And to get around this, we're going to go into our .mmx file. So let's go ahead and open this with Notepad, and then we're going to be looking for the append date timestamp, and here it is. Here's the append date timestamp, and this is going to be for your XML file. So we'll change this from false to true, and then we'll search for the backup append date timestamp, which is right down here, backup append date timestamp, and we'll also change this from false to true. We'll file save, and then we'll rerun the .mmx file. As you can see, we have created a date and timestamped .xml file and also a date and timestamped backup result file. This is very useful if you're wanting to keep a log or record of any of your backups. And another tip I'm going to show you, if you want to place those logs or backups in a different location, go ahead and go into let's edit this file, and as we have the -f equals, this is the location that all of the files are going to be put into by default with this name, with the CL name. If we want, we can rename this or put it into a different location by simply clicking equals after the D, and we can put it in a different C file location called anywhere that we want. Change that to a colon. And the same is with the output file. So this is where the dataset file will go to now. And you can do the same with the output file as well. So you can equal C:/ and specify a file location for that to go as well. Now that we've showed you how to use the command line and a couple of tips and tricks within the command line, we'll go ahead and schedule a task with this batch file. So we'll go to Control Panel, Scheduled Tasks, and then we'll click on the Add Scheduled, go Next, And then we'll browse for the batch file that we want. So we'll go into our command line demo, and then we'll go ahead and use the CL backup.bat file. We'll schedule this to run weekly. We'll schedule it on a Sunday at 4 in the morning, 4 a.m. every week. Select Next. Here we can enter our username and password if needed, and click Finish. And now we have a backup that is going to back up every Sunday at 4 a.m. It's going to back up the CL backup.bat file, which will also date and timestamp a new XML file and date and timestamp a backup result file. And that is how you schedule a backup using the command line function within MetaManager. Thank you, and be on a lookout for future podcasts on our BSP Software website.